The great hall of the Valkyrie Imperial Palace glowed with soft blue lights. Hundreds of beings from across the galaxy filled the massive room. Some had wings, others had tentacles, and many looked like different kinds of animals that could walk and talk. They all wore their finest clothes and jewelry. Tonight was the bonding ceremony, the most important event in the Valkyrie Empire. Princess Zarathul stood on the raised platform in the center of the hall. She wore a flowing silver dress that matched her natural scales. But her scales were different from other Valkyrie people. While most Valkyrie had scales that stayed one color, hers changed and shifted like waves of light. Sometimes they were blue, then green, then purple. The patterns moved across her skin like living rainbows. Her people called it a curse. Zara watched as potential suitors walked past her platform. Each one looked at her for a moment, then quickly looked away. Some whispered to their friends. Others shook their heads and moved on to other parts of the hall. The same thing happened every time there was a bonding ceremony. "Third time," she whispered to herself. "Third time no one wants me." Emperor Veltos, her father, stood on his throne watching the ceremony. His golden scales stayed the same color as they should. His face showed no emotion, but Zara knew he was disappointed. The Empire needed marriages between royal families to keep peace with other worlds. But how could they make peace when no one wanted to marry the cursed princess? "Princess Zarathul," announced the ceremony master, a tall Valkyrie with deep green scales. "Step forward for the selection walk." This was the part Zara hated most. She had to walk around the platform while potential husbands could approach her. If they were interested, they would place a crystal flower at her feet. If not, they would stay back and watch. Zara began to walk slowly around the circular platform. Her scales shimmered more brightly because of her nervousness. The changing colors made some people in the crowd step back. She heard the familiar whispers. "Look how her scales move. It's unnatural. My grandmother said children born with changing scales bring bad luck. No wonder no one chooses her." A young prince from the Zephyr system approached the platform. Zara felt hope rise in her chest. Prince Keval had kind eyes and had always been polite to her at other ceremonies. Maybe this time would be different. Prince Keval climbed the first step toward her. Then he stopped. He stared at her scales as they shifted from blue to silver to gold. His face changed from interest to worry to fear. Without saying a word, he stepped back down and walked away. Zara's heart sank. Her scales flashed bright red for a moment, showing her pain. This made even more people in the crowd step back. The ceremony continued for 2 more hours. Nobles, princes, and wealthy merchants from many worlds looked at her. Some seemed interested until they saw her scales change. Others never even approached. By the end of the night, no crystal flowers lay at her feet. "The ceremony is complete," announced the ceremony master. "Thank you all for attending." The crowd began to leave. Zara stood alone on the platform watching everyone go. Her father approached her with heavy steps. "Zara," Emperor Veltos said quietly, "we need to talk tomorrow. The council is getting impatient." "I know, father," Zara replied. She had heard the council members talking. They wanted her to give up her right to the throne so her younger brother could take her place as heir. But her brother was only 10 years old and not ready to marry anyone. "Try not to worry tonight," her father said. "We will find a solution." But Zara knew there was no solution. She was 25 years old and had failed to find a husband 3 times. In Valkyrie culture, this was a sign that the gods themselves rejected her. After everyone left the Great Hall, Zara walked through the palace corridors to her favorite place, the royal gardens. The gardens were beautiful at night. Glowing flowers provided soft light and the air smelled sweet. Small creatures that looked like flying jellyfish floated between the trees, their bodies glowing different colors. Zara sat on her usual bench beside a pond filled with swimming lights. These tiny creatures lived in the water and made it glow when they moved. She often came here when she felt sad or lonely. The changing lights in the water reminded her that she was not the only thing in the universe that changed colors. "They're beautiful, aren't they?" Zara jumped up, startled. She turned to see a person she had never met before. He was clearly not Valkyrie. His skin was smooth and tan without scales. He had dark hair and kind brown eyes. He wore simple clothes, not fancy like the people at the ceremony. "I'm sorry," the stranger said, standing up from where he had been sitting on the grass. "I didn't mean to scare you. I'm Marcus Chen. I'm the new cultural attaché from Earth." Earth. Zara had heard of this world. Humans lived there. They were a young species that had only recently joined the galactic community. Most older civilizations thought humans were not very important. "You're human," Zara said. It was not a question. "Yes," Marcus smiled. "And you're Princess Zarathul. I've heard about you." Zara's scales shifted to darker colors. "What did you hear?" "That you're very intelligent. That you study the biology of different alien species, and that you speak 7 languages." Marcus sat back down on the grass and looked at the glowing pond. "I didn't hear anything about curses or bad luck." This surprised Zara. Everyone always mentioned her curse first. "You don't know about my scales?" Marcus looked at her scales, which were currently shifting from purple to blue to green. "They're amazing," he said.
They remind me of something we have on Earth called the Aurora Borealis.
"It's when lights dance across our sky in different colors. People travel from all over our world just to see it because it's so beautiful." Zara stared at him. No one had ever called her scales beautiful before. "But they change," she said. "It's not normal." "On Earth we think change is good," Marcus said. "Nothing stays the same forever. Seasons change, people change, even our planet changes. We believe that things that can change are stronger because they can adapt." "Adapt?" Zara asked. "Survive in different situations," Marcus explained. "When things around you change, you can change too instead of breaking." Zara sat down on her bench again, but this time she felt curious instead of sad. "Tell me about Earth," she said. Marcus smiled and began to talk about his home world. He told her about oceans and mountains, about different countries with different cultures, about animals that lived in hot deserts and cold icelands. He talked about how humans came in many different colors and sizes, and how they celebrated these differences instead of fearing them. "We have a saying on Earth," Marcus said. "Variety is the spice of life." It means that differences make things more interesting, not worse. Zara listened to every word. She had studied many alien species, but she had never heard anyone talk about their world with such love and pride, and she had never met anyone who thought being different was a good thing. "Why are you here?" Zara asked. "In the garden, I mean." "I like quiet places," Marcus said. "And your gardens are the most beautiful I've seen on any world." "The ceremony was too crowded for me." "You were at the bonding ceremony?" "Yes, I had to attend as part of my diplomatic duties," Marcus said. "I watched you during the selection walk." Zara's scales darkened with embarrassment. "Then you saw that no one chose me." "I saw that no one was smart enough to choose you," Marcus said quietly. Zara looked at him in surprise. Her scales began to shimmer with lighter colors, colors she had never seen on her skin before. For the first time in her life, someone looked at her without fear, disgust, or pity. Marcus looked at her like she was simply another person worth knowing. They talked until the 3 moons of Velkar began to set. Marcus told her more stories about Earth, and Zara shared her knowledge about different alien creatures. She found that talking to Marcus was easy and comfortable. When it was time to go, Marcus stood up and bowed politely. "Thank you for a wonderful evening, Princess. I hope we can talk again soon." "I would like that," Zara said, and meant it. As Marcus walked away, Zara remained in the garden. She looked at her reflection in the glowing pond. Her scales were shimmering with soft, golden light, a color she had never seen them turn before. For the first time in her life, she thought they looked beautiful. Maybe being different wasn't a curse after all. Maybe it was just waiting for the right person to understand it. 3 weeks had passed since the bonding ceremony. Every evening, Princess Zarathul found herself walking to the royal gardens, and every evening, Marcus Chen was there waiting for her. They would sit by the glowing pond and talk about their different worlds. "On Earth, we have something called marriage," Marcus said one evening. "It's different from your bonding ceremonies." "How is it different?" Zara asked. Her scales were a soft blue color tonight, which Marcus had learned meant she was calm and happy. "People choose their own partners," Marcus explained. "They don't marry for politics or to make their families stronger. They marry because they care about each other." Zara found this idea strange but interesting. "But how do they know if someone is a good match? Don't their families help them decide?" "Families give advice, but the choice belongs to the 2 people," Marcus said. "They spend time together, learn about each other, and decide if they want to build a life together." "What if they choose wrong?" Zara asked. Marcus smiled. "Then they learn from it and try again." We believe that love, caring deeply about someone, is more important than having perfect matches on paper. Love, Zara repeated the word. She had heard it before but never understood what it meant. In Velkari culture, marriages were business arrangements between families. Feelings were not considered important. During their talks, Marcus told Zara about Earth's history. He spoke about how humans had learned to live together despite being different colors, speaking different languages, and believing different things. He talked about human scientists, artists, and explorers who had changed the world by thinking in new ways. "We have a scientist named Marie Curie," Marcus said. "She studied something called radiation. Other scientists said women couldn't do science, but she proved them wrong. She won 2 Nobel Prizes." "What's a Nobel Prize?" Zara asked. "It's an award we give to people who make important discoveries," Marcus explained. Marie Curie was the first woman to win one. Zara loved these stories. She had always enjoyed studying biology and learning about different species, but her tutors told her these subjects were not proper for a princess. She was supposed to learn about politics, trade agreements, and royal protocol instead. "I wish I could meet this Marie Curie," Zara said. "She died many years ago," Marcus said. "But Earth has many female scientists now. They study everything from tiny atoms to huge galaxies." "Female scientists," Zara repeated. The idea amazed her. In the Velkari Empire, only males could become official scientists or scholars. One evening, Marcus brought something with him to the garden. It was a small device that projected images in the air. "I want to show you something," Marcus said. He touched the device, and suddenly the air above them filled with pictures of Earth. Zara gasped. She saw blue oceans, green forests, white clouds, and brown mountains. She saw cities with tall buildings and small villages with simple houses. She saw humans with different skin colors, hair types, and clothing styles all living together. "This is New York City," Marcus said, showing her a picture of a huge city with buildings that touch the sky. "People from all over Earth live here. They speak hundreds of different languages." "They all live in the same place?" Zara asked. "Don't they fight?" "Sometimes they disagree," Marcus said, "but mostly they help each other. Humans learned that we're stronger when we work together, not when we fight." The next image showed a place called a library. Zara saw rooms filled with books and people of all ages reading together. "Anyone can go to a library," Marcus explained. "Rich or poor, young or old, male or female. Knowledge belongs to everyone on Earth." Zara's scales shimmered with excitement. "Even females can read scientific books?" "Of course," Marcus said. "Some of our best scientists are women." That night, Zara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Earth and its strange ideas about equality and choice. She walked to her private study, a room filled with books about alien biology that she read in secret. Her tutors didn't know about this room. She pulled out her favorite book about interstellar species and began reading about humans. The book was old and didn't have much information. It said humans were weak, short-lived, and not very intelligent compared to other species. But Marcus didn't seem weak or unintelligent. He knew things about art, science, history, and philosophy. He asked thoughtful questions and listened carefully to her answers. He treated her like her opinions mattered. The next day brought terrible news. Zara was eating breakfast when her father, Emperor Velthos, entered her chambers. His golden scales looked darker than usual, which meant he was upset. "Zara, we need to talk," he said. "The council met last night." Zara's scales turned gray with worry. "What did they decide?" "They are giving you one more chance," her father said. "1 month from today, we will hold another bonding ceremony. If no one chooses you this time." "What happens then?" Zara asked, though she already knew. "You will give up your right to the throne and leave the palace," her father said quietly. "The council says having an unmarried heir makes our empire look weak." "But Korvac is only 10 years old," Zara said, talking about her younger brother. "He can't rule for many years." "The council will choose a regent to rule until he's old enough," her father replied. "I'm sorry, Zara. I tried to change their minds, but they won't listen." After her father left, Zara sat alone in her room. 30 days. She had 30 days to find a husband or lose everything. Her scales shifted rapidly through different colors as emotions crashed over her like waves. That evening, she went to the garden earlier than usual. Marcus was already there, feeding the glowing fish in the pond. "You look upset," Marcus said when he saw her. "What's wrong?" Zara told him about the council's decision. As she spoke, her scales darkened to deep purple and black. "That's not fair," Marcus said. "You're intelligent, kind, and strong. Any ruler would be lucky to have you as an ally." "But I'm cursed," Zara said. "My scales change colors. It frightens people." Marcus moved closer to her on the bench. "Your scales are beautiful," he said, "and they tell the truth about how you feel. Most people hide their emotions behind fake smiles. You can't hide, and that makes you honest." "Honest doesn't help me find a husband," Zara said sadly. "What if?" Marcus started, then stopped. "What if what?" Zara asked. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "What if you could choose for yourself, like humans do?" "Choose what?" "Choose who you want to marry," Marcus said, "instead of waiting for someone to choose you." Zara stared at him. "That's impossible. Velkari women don't choose their own husbands." "But what if one did?" Marcus asked. "What if Princess Zara Thul decided to be the first?" The idea was crazy. It went against every tradition her people had. But as Zara thought about it, she felt something new. Hope. "Who would I choose?" she asked quietly. Marcus looked at her with his kind brown eyes. "Who would you want to choose?" Zara's scales began to change in a way they never had before. Instead of shifting between different colors, they started to shimmer with all colors at once, like a rainbow made of light. Over the next week, Zara couldn't stop thinking about Marcus's words. She spent her days reading about human marriage customs and their ideas about love and choice. She learned that humans believe two people should complement each other, that their differences should make them stronger together. She thought about her conversations with Marcus. He didn't try to change her or fix her. He listened to her ideas about alien biology and asked smart questions. He told her about Earth's discoveries and never talked down to her like her tutors did. When she was with Marcus, her scales showed colors she had never seen before. Soft golds, gentle silvers, and warm pinks. Her personal servant, an old Velkari woman named Satha, had noticed. "Princess, your scales have been different lately," Satha said one morning while helping Zara dress. "They're brighter." "Have they?" Zara asked, looking at herself in the mirror. "Yes," Satha said. "And you smile more. Are you feeling better about the next ceremony?" Zara wasn't sure how to answer. She had been feeling better, but not about the ceremony. She felt better about herself. That evening, Zara made a decision that would change her life forever. She put on her finest dress and walked to the garden. Marcus was there, as always, sitting by the glowing pond. "Marcus," she said, her voice stronger than she had ever heard it. He looked up at her and smiled. "Good evening, Princess. You look beautiful tonight." Zara's scales shimmered with nervous energy. She took a deep breath and remembered everything. Marcus had told her about human courage and choosing for yourself. "Marcus," she said again, "I have something to ask you." "What is it?" Marcus asked, standing up to face her. Zara looked into his kind eyes and felt her scales burst into the most beautiful display of colors she had ever created. Gold, silver, blue, green, and pink swirled across her skin like living art. "Will you be my husband?" she asked. The question hung in the air between them. Marcus stared at her in surprise. Around them, the glowing creatures in the pond seemed to shine brighter, as if the universe itself was waiting for his answer. For a moment, that felt like forever. Neither of them moved. Then Marcus smiled the biggest smile Zara had ever seen. "Yes," he said simply. "Yes, I will." Zara's scales exploded with light, creating patterns that had never existed before. In that moment, She knew that choosing for herself was the most important thing she had ever done. The next morning brought chaos to the Velkari Imperial Palace. Princess Zarathul had asked for an immediate meeting with the Council of Elders. She sat in the great council chamber, her scales shimmering with nervous energy as 12 ancient Velkari stared at her in shock. "You want to marry the human?" Elder Vexter asked, his voice filled with disbelief. His dark green scales seemed to darken even more as he spoke. "Yes," Zara said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Marcus Chen has agreed to be my husband." "This is impossible," said Elder Morthak, the oldest member of the council. "The ancient laws forbid royal marriage to lesser species." "Humans are not lesser," Zara replied. "They are simply different." The council chamber erupted in angry voices. Some elders hissed, a sound that Velkari made when they were very upset. Others clicked their claws against the stone table. Emperor Velthos sat on his throne at the head of the chamber, watching his daughter with worried eyes. "Silence!" shouted Elder Vextar. The room became quiet. "Princess Zarathul, do you understand what you are asking? No royal in the history of our empire has ever married outside our species." "Then maybe it's time for history to change," Zara said. Her scales flashed with gold and silver, colors that showed her determination. "The human cannot even survive our bonding rituals," said Elder Kessera, a female council member. "He has no scales, no natural armor, no enhanced strength. He would die in the first trial." "What trials?" Zara asked. Her father spoke for the first time. "The trials of worth," Emperor Velthos explained. "Ancient tests that were once used to prove a suitor's value. They haven't been used in over 200 years because they are too dangerous." Elder Morthak leaned forward on his cane. "If this human truly wishes to marry our princess, he must prove he is worthy according to our oldest laws. He must face the trials of worth. And if he fails?" Zara asked, though she was afraid to hear the answer. "Then he dies," Elder Vextar said simply. "And you will be exiled for bringing shame to the royal family." Zara's scales turned dark gray with fear. She had not expected this. She thought the council might be angry, but she never imagined they would demand trials that could kill Marcus. "However," Elder Morthak continued, "if by some miracle he succeeds, we will accept the marriage." After the meeting, Zara ran through the palace corridors to find Marcus. He was in the diplomatic wing, working at a desk covered with papers and computer screens. When he saw her distressed face, he immediately stood up. "Zara, what's wrong?" Marcus asked. "The council," she said, trying to catch her breath. "They said yes to our marriage, but only if you pass the trials of worth." "What are these trials?" Marcus asked calmly. Zara explained what the council had told her. As she spoke, Marcus's face became more serious, but he didn't look afraid. "And if I don't take these trials?" Marcus asked. "Then I will be exiled," Zara said. "And you will be sent back to Earth." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he took her hands in his. "Then I'll take the trials." "Marcus, no," Zara said. "You could die." "These trials were made for Velkari warriors, not humans." "Zara, listen to me," Marcus said gently. "On Earth we have a saying, love conquers all. It means that when you truly care about someone, you're willing to face any danger for them." "But you're not a warrior," Zara said. "You're a diplomat," Marcus smiled. "Diplomats have to be brave too. We just use different kinds of courage." That evening, Marcus met with Ambassador Torres, the head of Earth's diplomatic mission to Velkar. The ambassador was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. "Marcus, this is crazy," Ambassador Torres said after he explained the situation. "Earth Command will never approve this. The trials could start a diplomatic incident if you die." "Then I won't die," Marcus said simply. "You don't understand," the ambassador continued. "These trials were designed to test alien physiology that's much stronger than human physiology. You'll be fighting creatures that could tear you apart." "I know the risks," Marcus said, "but I won't abandon Zara. If I don't try, she loses everything." Ambassador Torres studied his face. "You really love her, don't you?" "Yes," Marcus said. "I do," the ambassador sighed. "Then I'll send a message to Earth Command. But Marcus, you'll be on your own. Earth can't officially support this." While Marcus prepared for trials he knew nothing about, Zara spent her time in the palace library. She had always loved to study, and now she researched everything she could find about the trials of worth. The trials were ancient, created over 1,000 years ago when the Velkari Empire was young and constantly at war. They tested strength, courage, wisdom, and spiritual connection. Many Velkari warriors had died attempting them. As Zara read, she made a discovery that shocked her. Hidden in the oldest book, she found references to her condition. The changing scales were not a curse. They were a sign of evolution, according to the ancient texts. Velkari with changing scales appeared only during times when the species needed to adapt. Their scales could sense things that normal Velkari could not detect. Changes in electromagnetic fields, emotional states of others, even dangerous radiation. "I'm not cursed," Zara whispered to herself in the empty library. "I'm evolved." She realized her scales had been trying to tell her things her whole life. When they turned dark around certain people, those people were usually lying or planning something harmful. When they turned bright colors around Marcus, it was because he was genuinely kind and caring. But this discovery came too late to help Marcus. The trials were set to begin in 3 days. On the night before the trials, Zara met Marcus in their special place in the garden. The glowing pond reflected their faces as they sat together on the familiar bench. "I've been studying the trials," Zara said. "The first trial is combat against the Council's champion. You'll have to fight warrior Thekvar." "How big is he?" Marcus asked. "Very big," Zara said sadly. "He's 8 feet tall and has been training for combat his entire life." Marcus nodded thoughtfully. "What about the other trials?" "The second trial is survival in the crystal caves," Zara explained. "They're filled with dangerous creatures and the crystals create illusions that can drive people insane." "And the third trial?" "A test of wisdom," Zara said. "You have to solve ancient riddles while sitting in a room filled with poisonous gas that affects the mind." "And the fourth trial?" Marcus asked. Zara hesitated. "The void chamber. You have to spend 1 full night in a place where previous challengers have died from—" She stopped. "From what?" Marcus asked gently. "From terror," Zara said quietly. "Something in that chamber shows people their worst fears. Most beings die from fear alone." Marcus was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "Zara, I need you to know something. Even if I don't survive these trials, asking you to marry me was the best decision I've ever made." Zara's scales began to glow with soft light. "Don't talk like that. You're going to survive." "I'm going to try," Marcus said. "But humans have something that might help us. We're very good at adapting to new situations, and we're stubborn. When we decide we want something, we don't give up easily." The next morning, the palace filled with people from across the empire who had come to watch the trials. Many had never seen a human before and were curious about this strange being, who dared to challenge their ancient traditions. Marcus stood in the preparation chamber, wearing simple human clothing instead of Velkari armor. He had refused the heavy protection, saying it would slow him down. "Are you ready, human?" asked warrior Thekvar, the council's champion. He was indeed 8 feet tall, covered in thick black scales, and armed with traditional Velkari weapons. "As ready as I can be," Marcus replied calmly. Emperor Velthos entered the chamber with the council of elders. "Marcus Chen of Earth," the emperor said formally, "do you understand that these trials may result in your death?" "I understand," Marcus said. "And you still choose to proceed?" "I do," Marcus said. He looked toward where Zara stood with the other royal family members. Her scales were shimmering with every color imaginable, showing all her emotions at once: fear, hope, love, and pride. "Then let the first trial begin," announced Elder Vexutar. Marcus and Thekvar were led to the trial arena, a circular stone platform surrounded by thousands of spectators. Traditional Velkari weapons were placed on a table: curved swords, spiked clubs, and throwing blades. Thekvar selected a massive sword that glowed with energy. Marcus looked at the weapons for a moment, then picked up 2 small curved blades. "Those are training weapons," Thekvar laughed. "They cannot cut through my scales." "I know," Marcus said quietly. The crowd grew silent as the trial master raised his hand. "Combat will continue until one fighter cannot continue or surrenders. Begin." Thekvar charged forward with a roar, his huge sword raised above his head. Marcus waited until the last second, then rolled to the side. The Velkari warrior's sword crashed into the stone where Marcus had been standing, creating a shower of sparks. "Stand still and fight," Thekvar shouted. But Marcus had no intention of standing still. He had realized something important. He didn't need to be stronger than Thekvar. He just needed to be smarter. The real trials were just beginning. Marcus rolled across the stone platform as Thekvar's massive sword crashed down again. The Velkari warrior was strong and fast, but Marcus noticed something important. Thekvar fought with anger, not strategy. "You cannot run forever, human," Thekvar roared, swinging his glowing sword in wide arcs. Marcus didn't answer. He was thinking. On Earth, he had studied martial arts as a young man. His instructor had taught him that the strongest fighter doesn't always win. The smartest fighter does. Thekvar charged again, his heavy footsteps shaking the platform. This time Marcus didn't roll away. Instead, he stepped forward and to the right, using one of his small blades to redirect Thekvar's sword past his body. The warrior's own momentum carried him forward off balance. Marcus quickly struck 2 nerve points on Thekvar's arm with his small blade. The Velkari warrior's grip on his sword loosened and the weapon clattered to the ground. "Impossible," Thekvar shouted, but his arm was numb and useless. "On Earth, we call this using your opponent's strength against them," Marcus said calmly. "You're stronger than me, but strength without control is weakness." Thekvar tried to grab Marcus with his good arm, but Marcus was already moving. He used another technique his instructor had taught him, wrapping around behind the warrior and applying pressure to a point on his neck. Thekvar struggled for a moment, then collapsed to the ground, unconscious but alive. The arena fell silent. No one had expected the small human to defeat their greatest warrior. Then slowly the crowd began to cheer. Even though Marcus was an outsider, they respected skill and cleverness. "The first trial is complete," announced Elder Vextar, his voice showing surprise. "The human has won." Zara's scales blazed with gold and silver light. Her heart felt like it might burst with pride and relief. Marcus had survived the first trial, but 3 more trials remained. The second trial took place the next day in the crystal caves beneath the palace. These caves were natural formations filled with strange crystals that glowed with their own light. But the crystals also created dangerous illusions and released gases that could confuse the mind. Marcus stood at the entrance to the caves wearing a simple breathing mask and carrying a small pack of supplies. The trial master explained the rules. "You must reach the center of the caves and retrieve the crystal of truth," the trial master said. "Many have tried. Most never return." "What happens to them?" Marcus asked. "The caves show you things that aren't real," the trial master explained. "People see monsters or they see loved ones calling for help. They get lost chasing illusions and never find their way out." Marcus nodded and entered the caves. Immediately, the crystal light began playing tricks on his eyes. The walls seemed to move and shift. Voices echoed from different directions, but when he looked, no one was there. As Marcus walked deeper into the caves, the illusions became stronger. He saw his mother calling for help, trapped behind a wall of crystal. He knew it wasn't real, but the image looked so believable that his heart ached. "It's not real," he whispered to himself. "Stay focused on the goal." This was another human advantage that Marcus hadn't realized before. Humans were used to dealing with things that weren't real: movies, books, video games, and imagination. They understood the difference between reality and fantasy better than species that experienced the world more directly. Marcus used a technique he had learned as a child. When the illusions became too strong, he would close his eyes and use his other senses. He listened for the sound of moving air that would lead him deeper into the caves. He felt the walls with his hands to make sure they were real. He even smelled the air, looking for the unique scent that came from the crystal of truth. After 6 hours of careful walking, Marcus found the center chamber. The crystal of truth sat on a pedestal, glowing with pure white light. But around the crystal, the illusions were strongest. Marcus saw armies of monsters, floods of water, and fires that seemed ready to burn him. "None of this is real," Marcus said out loud. "I choose to see the truth." He walked straight through the illusions to the pedestal and picked up the crystal. Immediately, all the fake images disappeared. The caves became quiet and peaceful. Marcus had passed the second trial. The third trial was the test of wisdom. Marcus sat in a chair inside a sealed room filled with purple gas that made thinking difficult. Ancient riddles appeared on the walls, written in old Velkari script that was hard to read. The gas made Marcus feel dizzy and confused, but he had one advantage: human education. On Earth, children learned about many different cultures, philosophies, and ways of thinking. Marcus had studied history, literature, science, and art from all over his world. The first riddle asked, "What grows stronger when shared but weaker when hoarded?" Marcus thought about this carefully. The gas made his mind feel slow, but he remembered stories from Earth about different cultures. "Knowledge," he said out loud. The riddle disappeared and a new one appeared. "What can travel faster than light but has no weight?" This one was easier for Marcus because humans had studied space travel and physics. "Information," he answered. Each riddle was harder than the last, but Marcus drew on everything he had learned about human philosophy, science, and wisdom. Some answers came from Eastern philosophy he had studied. Others came from Western science or African proverbs his grandmother had taught him. The final riddle was the hardest. What is the most powerful force in the universe? Marcus thought about this for a long time. The gas made him feel sick and his vision was blurry. He thought about gravity, about nuclear energy, about the expansion of the universe. Then he thought about why he was here taking these trials. "Love," he said quietly. The purple gas cleared from the room and the door opened. Marcus had passed the third trial, but the hardest trial still waited. On the fourth day, Marcus faced the void chamber. It was a completely black room with no light, no sound, and no air movement. Previous challengers had died in this room from fear alone. "What exactly happens in there?" Marcus asked the trial master before entering. "The chamber shows you your deepest fears," the trial master explained. "It reaches into your mind and makes your worst nightmares seem real. Most beings cannot survive the terror." Marcus nodded. "How long do I have to stay inside?" "From sunset to sunrise," the trial master said. "One full night." As Marcus stepped into the chamber, the door sealed behind him. Complete darkness surrounded him. At first, nothing happened. Then slowly, images began to appear in his mind. Marcus saw Earth being destroyed by alien weapons. He saw his family and friends dying. He saw Zara being tortured by her own people. The images felt completely real and filled him with terror. But then Marcus remembered something important about humans. They were storytellers. From the earliest days of their species, humans had told each other stories about monsters, dangers, and fears. They had learned to face their nightmares by understanding them. "These are just stories," Marcus said into the darkness. "Fear is just a story my mind tells itself about things that might happen." The images became more intense. Marcus saw himself failing the trials and dying in horrible ways. He saw Zara being forced to marry someone cruel. He saw wars breaking out between Earth and the Velkari Empire. Each time a new fear appeared, Marcus faced it the same way. He acknowledged that it was scary, but he reminded himself that it wasn't real. He had learned this technique from human psychologists who studied anxiety and fear. "Fear is normal," Marcus said out loud. "Everyone feels afraid sometimes. The brave person isn't someone who never feels fear. It's someone who feels fear and acts anyway." As the night continued, something unexpected happened. The chamber began showing Marcus not just his fears, but the fears of previous challengers. He sensed the terror of Velkari warriors who had died in this room, overwhelmed by visions they couldn't understand or control. Marcus realized that the chamber wasn't evil. It was lonely. It had been holding on to the fear and pain of everyone who had entered it for hundreds of years. It didn't know how to let go. "You don't have to keep their fear," Marcus said gently to the darkness. "Fear is meant to warn us about danger, not to trap us forever. You can let it go." For the first time in centuries, the void chamber felt something it had never experienced before. Compassion. This small human wasn't trying to fight the darkness or prove he was stronger than it. He was trying to heal it. As dawn approached, the chamber filled with a soft, warm light. The fears began to fade away, not because Marcus had defeated them, but because he had shown them understanding. When the door opened at sunrise, Marcus walked out calmly. He was tired but not broken. The trial masters stared at him in amazement. "The chamber is different," one of them whispered. "It feels peaceful." Marcus had not only survived the void chamber, he had healed it. All 4 trials were complete. Marcus had won through strategy, adaptability, wisdom, and compassion. These were human strengths that the ancient trials had never encountered before. As Marcus stood before the Council of Elders, Princess Zarathul ran to him and threw her arms around him. Her scales blazed with every beautiful color in existence. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." Emperor Velthos stood from his throne. Marcus Chen of Earth, he said formally. You have completed the trials of worth according to our... 3 months after Marcus completed the trials of worth, the royal palace prepared for the most unusual wedding in Velkari history. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to witness the marriage between Princess Zarathul and Marcus Chen, the human who had changed everything. Zara stood in her private chambers, looking at herself in the mirror. Her wedding dress was made of fine silver fabric that complemented her scales perfectly, but what amazed her most was how her scales looked now. Instead of the chaotic color changes that had once embarrassed her, they now showed steady, beautiful patterns that seemed to tell stories. You look radiant, my dear, said her personal servant, Satha. The old Velkari woman had tears in her eyes. I never thought I would see this day. Neither did I, Zara admitted. Her scales shimmered with soft gold and pink colors that everyone now recognized as signs of happiness and love. During the months of wedding preparation, amazing things had happened throughout the empire. Zara's discovery about her evolutionary scales had led to new scientific research. Other Velkari with changing scales came forward, no longer ashamed of their differences. Scientists found that these individuals could sense electromagnetic storms in space days before they happened, making space travel much safer. Princess, Satha said, there's someone here to see you. Emperor Velthos entered the chamber. His golden scales gleamed in the morning light, and for the first time in years he looked truly happy. Father, Zara said, bowing respectfully. My daughter, the emperor said, taking her hands. I owe you an apology. For years I listened to the council's fears instead of seeing your strength. You were never cursed. You were a gift we were too blind to understand. The past doesn't matter now, Zara said gently. What matters is what we build for the future. Meanwhile, in another part of the palace, Marcus was having his own moment of reflection. He stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city, wearing formal Velkari robes modified for his human body. Ambassador Torres stood beside him, smiling proudly. Earth Command is very impressed, the ambassador said. Your actions here have opened doors for human diplomacy throughout the galaxy. Other species want to learn about human problem-solving methods. I just did what felt right, Marcus said. I couldn't abandon Zara. That's exactly what makes humans special, Ambassador Torres replied. We don't abandon the people we care about, even when it seems impossible. Below them, the city bustled with activity. Humans, Velkari, and beings from many other worlds walked the streets together. The marriage had sparked interest in cultural exchange programs. Young Velkari were learning human languages while human students came to study Velkari engineering. Marcus, Ambassador Torres said, I have news from Earth. The government has offered you a new position, Ambassador of Interspecies Relations. You would help other worlds understand human culture. Marcus considered this. It was a great honor, but it would mean traveling constantly. What about Zara? Would she be able to come with me? Actually, that's the best part, the ambassador smiled. The position is for both of you. Earth wants Princess Zara as co-ambassador. Her scientific knowledge and royal connections would be invaluable. The wedding ceremony took place in the Great Hall, where Zara had once stood alone and unwanted. Now the same hall overflowed with guests celebrating her happiness. The walls were decorated with flowers from both Earth and Velkar, creating beautiful displays of color and scent. Zara walked down the aisle toward Marcus, her scales creating patterns that looked like flowing water made of light. Traditional Velkari music played alongside Earth instruments that Marcus had requested. The sound was strange but beautiful, like the mixing of two different rivers creating something new. Marcus wore a combination of Earth formal wear and Velkari ceremonial robes. Around his neck hung a translator device that would allow him to speak the wedding vows in perfect Velkari. Elder Morthak, the oldest council member, performed the ceremony. He had become one of their strongest supporters after witnessing Marcus's trials. We gathered today to witness something that has never happened before, Elder Morthak announced to the crowd. The joining of two beings from different worlds, different species, but with the same brave hearts. The ceremony included traditions from both cultures. They exchanged rings in the human custom, and they also performed the Velkari ritual of scale touching, where Zara placed her hand against Marcus's cheek so her scales could sense his emotional state. Do you, Princess Zarathul, choose Marcus Chen as your partner for life? Elder Morthak asked. I do, Zara said, her voice strong and clear. I choose him as humans choose, with my whole heart. Do you, Marcus Chen, accept Princess Zarathul as your partner for life? I do, Marcus replied in perfect Velkari. I promise to see the beauty in our differences and to grow stronger together. As they spoke their vows, something magical happened. Zara's scales began to glow brighter than anyone had ever seen them before. The patterns that flowed across her skin seemed to write words in the ancient Velkari language, words that spoke of love, hope, and new beginnings. By the ancient laws and new understanding, Elder Morthak declared, I pronounce you married. May your union bring prosperity to both your peoples. Marcus and Zara kissed as the crowd erupted in cheers. Humans clapped. Velkari hissed happily, and beings from other worlds made their own sounds of celebration. The wedding celebration lasted 3 days. During this time, important agreements were signed between Earth and the Velkari Empire. Trade partnerships were established, and plans were made for joint exploration missions to unknown parts of the galaxy. On the second day, a group of young Velkari scientists approached Zara with an exciting discovery. By studying her scale patterns during different emotional states, they had learned to create new types of sensors that could detect dangerous radiation and magnetic fields in space. Princess, your condition isn't just evolutionary, it's revolutionary, said Dr. Kesed Tar, a young female scientist. We can use this knowledge to make space travel safer for everyone. Then let's do it, Zara said. Let's turn what was once seen as a curse into something that helps all species. On the third day of celebration, Marcus and Zara announced their decision to accept Earth's offer to become joint ambassadors. They would travel throughout the galaxy, helping different species understand each other and solve problems together. We've learned that differences aren't something to fear, Zara announced to the gathered crowd. They're something to celebrate and learn from. 6 months later, Marcus and Zara stood on the bridge of their diplomatic ship, the New Dawn. They were traveling to the Andorian system, where 2 species had been fighting for decades over a misunderstanding about resource sharing. Do you think we can help them? Zara asked, watching the stars through the ship's view screen. We'll try, Marcus said. That's all anyone can do, try to understand each other and find common ground. Zara's scales shifted to display a pattern Marcus had learned meant deep contentment. I'm glad no one chose me at those bonding ceremonies, she said. Why? Marcus asked, surprised. Because if someone had chosen me, I never would have been brave enough to choose for myself, Zara explained. And I never would have found you. Marcus took her hand. I'm glad too. Sometimes the best things happen when we stop waiting for others to choose us and start choosing for ourselves. Their ship continued through space, carrying 2 ambassadors who had proven that love could bridge any gap, overcome any obstacle, and unite any difference. Behind them, the alliance between Earth and Velkar grew stronger each day, opening new possibilities for peace and cooperation throughout the galaxy. In the royal gardens of the Velkari Palace, glowing flowers bloomed in new colors that had never been seen before, colors that matched the patterns on Princess Zara's scales the day she married her human prince. The gardeners called them choice flowers because they only bloomed for those brave enough to choose their own path. And in schools throughout both worlds, children learned the story of the princess no one chose and the human who saw her true worth. They learned that being different wasn't a curse. It was a gift that made the universe more beautiful, one brave choice at a time. The story of Marcus and Zara became legend, but more importantly, it became hope. Hope that understanding could overcome fear, that love could bridge any distance, and that the courage to choose for yourself was the most powerful force in the universe. Their marriage didn't just unite 2 people. It started a new age of cooperation among the stars, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary things happen when someone is brave enough to ask a simple question. Will you be my partner in making the galaxy a better place? And across the cosmos, the answer echoed back, yes.